President Trump will meet with Latino voters from Arizona, touting the success that his administration has had with the Latino community.
Hispanic Americans embody the American dream. They understand the southern border better than anybody. We achieved the lowest Hispanic American unemployment rate ever recorded in the history of our nation, and we're getting it back very quickly.
But with just 50 days left until Election Day, where do Hispanic voters in the battleground states stand? Joining us now is Trump campaign senior strategy advisor Steve Cortes. Steve, good to see you this morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's take a look at this, the latest numbers here anyway. We know these can change, but what they are right now for the presidential preference, you can see Joe Biden with the edge 47% compared to the president with 44%. What does President Trump need to do to get more of an edge in Arizona?
Well, you know, in Arizona and in a lot of other key battleground states, particularly Florida, I think New Mexico might well be a battleground this time as well, the Hispanic vote is critical. And the president is doing incredibly well right now among Hispanic voters. The most recent NBC poll shows the president, for example, in the state of Florida, winning the Hispanic vote there. We saw a similar result from the Quinnipiac poll in the state of Florida. But whether it's Florida, Arizona, or elsewhere, I think two things argue in the president's favor. One is ideology. When we look at the Democratic Party, as it has lurched ever leftward and really gone to some of the extremes of American politics on things like open borders, the idea of permitting abortion all the way until the day of birth, attacks upon religious liberty. All of these issues make the Democratic Party largely unpalatable to Hispanics. We are generally a conservative people, religiously, culturally, and politically. And many Hispanics who previously voted Democratic have really been left as political orphans by the Democratic Party. And then I think the second issue, the overriding one for so many Americans, particularly important for Hispanics, is the economy. We Hispanics are statistically the most entrepreneurial demographic in America. This president was incredible in the first term before the China virus for entrepreneurs, creating the conditions for prosperity in this country, particularly for the strivers, for people who didn't do well during the Obama years, blue-collar folks, people who don't have advanced degrees, minorities. Hispanics know that. They also know that right now, currently, this economic renaissance, which is unfolding in this country with gusto, is incredible. It's real. Wages are rising. People are going back to work. And they know that that economic renaissance would be crushed by Joe Biden, particularly given that he threatens and promises that he'll give the largest tax increase in American history to punish the American economy that would inflict real economic harm upon 82% of all taxpayers. So given those realities, I think, of both ideology and the economy, Hispanics are rallying to President Trump.
Steve, on the topic of the Latino vote, Bernie Sanders had this to say. Take a listen.
I think we've got to do more as a campaign than just go after Trump. We got to reach out to the Latino community. You got a lot of young people, you got a lot of Latinos, African Americans who may not vote. How do we bring them into the political process? How do we get them to vote? That's key in so many battleground states.
Steve, in your previous answer, you touched on policy. But when you talk to the Latino voter, what do they say about Joe Biden, the man?
Sure. No, by the way, I very rarely agree with Bernie Sanders, but I'm going to agree with Bernie here. You're right. It's not just policy. It is also outreach. It's being there. And part of being there, by the way, is being there physically. And the idea, by the way, that Joe Biden said for months and months that he couldn't travel when he stayed in his basement bunker campaign strategy of trying to win by just running out the clock and basically stumbling across the finish line. We knew that wouldn't work. But his excuse for not traveling, he claimed, was the, quote, science. Well, the science hasn't changed in the last 2 weeks, yet he's finally hitting the road. I think the political science has changed, and he realizes that he's in a horse race right now in a lot of these states, including Florida, where he's going tomorrow. But my point is, for example, he has not been to Florida this year. He has not been to Florida in the year 2020. It's very hard to convince Floridians or other Americans that you really care about their issues, that you are concerned with the fate of their prosperity, their family security, if you're unwilling to even go there and in person ask for their vote. So I also think part of why Trump is doing well and our campaign is doing well among Hispanics is a very intentional, very dedicated effort of resources, time, and in-person visits like the president's doing right now out west in Nevada and Arizona.
All right. Well, we will continue to cover it. Steve Cortes, as always, thank you for being here.